Think Doctor Who is all quirky and charm and timey-wimey fun, think again. Beneath the sonic screwdrivers and the regenerations lies a darker truth. This show has turned death into something truly horrifying, from the silent menace to the weeping angels to the grotesque fate of the Dalek victims. These moments don't just shock, they linger, gnawing at the edges of hope. If you're ready to see how a sci-fi classic made morality terrifying, here are 10 ways Doctor Who's proved that death can be horrifying. Number 10. Scarman's transformation, The Pyramids of Mars, 1975. Professor Scarman's death and transformation into a servant of ᴊᴇᴅᴜ is horrifying because it combines psychological terror with physical destruction. The betrayal of his own humanity, he becomes an unrecognisable shell of himself. It's chilling. The image of his lifeless body being used as a tool of evil is haunting and a reminder of ᴊᴇᴜ's power, or what ᴊᴇᴜ's power used to be. Number 9. Astrid's Sacrifice, Voyage of the Damned, 2007. Astrid's death is emotionally devastating. She sacrifices herself to stop the ship's engines from destroying Earth, but her body is vaporised in the process. The Doctor's desperate attempts to save her, only to fail, add to the tragedy. Her death isn't as viscerally terrifying as others, but the sheer helplessness and the finality of her fate make it deeply impactful. And don't forget about that final moment where she finally reaches the stars just like she'd always dreamed. Number 8. ᴍᴏʀᴜ's death, The Caves of Androzani, 1984. ᴍᴏʀᴜ's demise is a mix of visceral horror and emotional tragedy. While his final moments, dying alone in a blaze of chaos, are both tragic and haunting. Number 7. Danny Pink's death, Dark Water, 2014. Danny's death is deeply unsettling because of its sudden, mundane nature. In fact, how's about we just let Clara Oswald say exactly how it is?
Wasn't terrible, Clara. It was boring. Boring. It was ordinary.
He's hit by a car while crossing the street. The abruptness of his death is shocking, but the true horror comes later. His consciousness is uploaded to the Nethersphere, where he's tormented by his memories and ultimately converted into a Cyberman. The idea of his death and the mere transition into something even more horrific, the loss of identity and humanity in cyber conversion, adds layers of terror to his already tragic end. And may I add, the effects team really pulled it out of the bag here because he looks in pain. Miss Evangelista, Silence in the Library, 2008. The death of Miss Evangelista is uniquely disturbing. The Vashta Narada devour her, but her consciousness is briefly preserved in a data ghost.
Don't tell the others, they'll only laugh.
I'm not going to tell them.
Don't tell the others, they'll only
She's
laugh.
looping now, the pattern's degrading.
I can't think. I don't know. Ice cream. Ice cream. Ice cream. Ice cream. Ice cream.
Her final moments are glitchy and disjointed as she repeats fragments of her last thoughts in a fractured, desperate voice. Her tragic fate is made worse by the emotional cruelty of her colleagues, who dismissed her intelligence before her death. The haunting imagery of her last moments, coupled with the concept of her consciousness being trapped in a malfunctioning system, is so chilling. Katarina's death, The Daleks Master Plan, 1965. Number 4. Cyber Conversion, various episodes. Becoming a Cyberman is one of the most horrifying fates in Doctor Who, don't you agree? The process involves having emotions suppressed, individuality erased, and one's body mutilated and transformed into a cold, unfeeling machine. Episodes like Doomsday and The Age of Steel show the chilling, in-between state of people begging for death as they're forcefully converted. Yeah, I know, it's hard to think that that's the same writer that wrote the last 2 seasons of Doctor Who. The sheer existential dread of losing everything that makes you human, combined with the harrowing screams during conversion, makes this a reoccurring nightmare in silver. You can see what I did there. Number 3. The Worm's Victims, The Ark in Space, 1975. In one of Doctor Who's best examples of body horror, the worm gradually infects humans, transforming them into grotesque, insectoid creatures. Noah's agonising metamorphosis is horrifying not just for its physical transformation, but also the psychological aspect. He remains partially aware of what's happening to him, The grotesque imagery of half-transformed humans and the desperate struggle to retain humanity cement this one as one of the most terrifying deaths in classic Who. And God knows why they've never brought them back for new Who. I mean, imagine how good they could make this look with today's modern effects. That would be fantastic. Number 2. The Vashta Nerada's Victims, Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead, 2008. Now I know that we already covered Miss Evangelista, but her death was quite unique in this episode. The Vashta Nerada consumes their victims alive, leaving only skeletons and spacesuits.
Professor, go ahead, find a safe spot.
It's a carnivorous swarm in a suit, you can't reason with it!
5 minutes.
The slow, inescapable horror is amplified by their ability to lurk in any shadow. Not every shadow, but any shadow. A prime fear that strikes deep. Most haunting is the data ghost effect that we've seen with Miss Evangelista. Victims remained conscious for a few seconds after death, repeating fragments of their final thoughts. Proper Dave's fate, his suit walking around with nothing but a skeleton inside, is particularly nightmarish. The eerie, repetitive phrase,
"Hey, who turned out the lights?"
captures the horror of being consumed by an invisible, omnipresent force. And number 1, the water zombies. The Waters of Mars, 2009. I just want to start this one off by saying I'm so glad that they had to cut the budget for this episode, because what we were originally going to get sounds nowhere near as good as what the water zombies turned out to be. These are by far one of the favourite monsters of the week. Or one-hit monsters, if you want to call it that. But it literally is so true what Stephen Moffat says. Only the best things come out of Doctor Who when there's a budget cut. Anything that happens in Doctor Who that turns out to be the best thing that the fans absolutely love is usually due to some kind of budget cut. So the infected crew members on Boy Base 1 becomes water-spewing, mindless zombies controlled by a sentient Martian water. Their transformation is horrifying as they lose all semblance of humanity. Their bodies grotesquely distorting as the water bursts from their skin. The psychological horror of infection combined with the unstoppable nature of the flood makes this one of Doctor Who's most chilling threats. The visual design of the waterlogged faces and eerie gurgling voices adds to the terror, especially since the infection spreads with no cure or hope for escape, and all you need is just one drop. Here's a little fun fact for you. So the initial design concept for the water zombies, known more as the Flood, involved water oozing from the actor's entire face down their head, but apparently this proved too frightening for family audiences and was deemed impractical as well. Yeah, I know, it's hard to think that that's the same writer that wrote the last 2 seasons of Doctor Who. So the design was changed to focus more on the water-based effects coming from the mouth and the hands that we see in the actual episode. And of course, we've got to have some honourable mentions as well, because we can't forget these two. Adric's death, Earthshock 1982. Adric's death aboard the spaceship crashing into Earth is unforgettable. The silence in the credits emphasises the finality of his sacrifice. While not only terrifying in a visceral sense, the emotional weight of losing a companion, especially one who realises he can't save himself, makes this a standout moment. Clara's death in Face the Raven, 2015. Clara's death is poignant rather than terrifying, facing her execution with bravery and resolve. Her death is inevitable and tragic. The horror lies in the build-up. Her hubris and determination lead to her doom, and the Doctor's inability to save her amplifies the emotional impact. Here's another fun fact. Clara's death was actually supposed to take place at the end of the season, and Stephen Moffat had to move it back a couple of episodes so that he could fit in the story arc of the Doctor grieving and Hellbent and Heaven Sent, because he regretted the fact that he had never explored that with the pawns when the Doctor lost Amy and Rory. So through his determination, we finally got to see what it would be like if the Doctor actually had to grieve on screen over a companion, which was horrifying in itself. But damn, did that make one good episode. That made one hell of a good episode. So that's my list of top 10 deaths in Doctor Who that are quite horrific. I hope you enjoyed this list, and if you do, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and go ahead and tell me if yours wasn't on the list, or if you have a totally different death in mind that you prefer, or monster in mind that you prefer. Let me know in the comments, because it would be really, really cool to know.